Oh, welcome back. Happy hump day, everybody. Welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World. And welcome back, my co-host, Mr. TJ Hopkins. TJ, I missed you on Monday during the XFL show. So I miss having you as my co-host, man. So I'm a little happy you're in the show, man. Welcome into the show. Welcome into the crossover. On today's episode, we are going to talk about the John Morant situation as he just was given a suspension today. We are going to talk about the final push and what we think the standings will look like when it's all said and done. And then we're going to get into something, nothing, everything. Happy hump day, TJ. Happy Wednesday. How are you, man? Are you there?
Can you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, I can hear you. Are you in your car?
Okay. There's a bit of a no. I'm at home. That's just my fan
Oh,
directly
okay.
on me because my room gets kind of hot. So yeah.
Gotcha. Well, welcome back, man. Yeah, I was just saying I missed you on Monday with the XFL show.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, it was a long weekend. Just leave it at that.
Yeah, I trust me, I understand, man. I had a pretty long weekend myself as well, so that's why we moved the crossover from Sunday. That's why we're doing it today, because yeah, I felt like death on Sunday when I woke up, man. Let me tell you, it is not
All right,
fun
let's
getting
do
old, my
this.
friend. Let's get into it. Let's start with the show. Let's talk about the John Morant situation and the Memphis
Okay.
Grizzlies and the quote-unquote John Morant problem. The timeline, as I've laid it out there on the screen. So March 15th today, he was suspended 8 games by the NBA for contact detrimental to the team. March 13th, the Grizzlies announced Morant has entered a counseling program. March 12th, the strip club photos of Morant were released. March 8th, Colorado police announced no charges against Morant. Morant will be filed. On March 4th, John Morant is seen flashing a gun, allegedly, during an Instagram live post. I only say allegedly just to protect us legally. March 4th as well, he announces he's stepping away from the team. They also suspended him. March 1st, the Washington Post reports of 2 incidents over the summer involving John Morant. And then February 5th, there is a report about him on a game against January 29th with him and the Indiana Pacers traveling group. What do we make of this John Morant situation, and where do you think it's going to end up going?
Um.
And before we really we just hope that, like, for John Morant's sake, he figures this out, he gets his head on straight, because you never want to see somebody go down this particular path that it seems like he's kind of moving towards a little bit.
Where do I think this goes? Well, one, it goes to the league offices.
Well, the league
Yeah, you know,
already ruled 8 games. That happened today,
like
2 hours ago,
What I
actually.
mean, what I mean by
one
that is
hour
like
ago.
he gonna have. What I mean by that is he gonna have to sit in front of Adam Silver. Like he gonna have to go in that room, and yeah, he gonna have to have that face to face conversation with Adam Silver. And to put it like a lot of people think that the league is being harsh on him right now. I'm gonna tell y'all right now, this is them being lenient. This is their nice. Like this is them telling him, excuse my language, don't let me see your ass back in here again. That's
100%.
what that's what this is. Like the 8 games, like so what this is separate from what the Grizzlies did. Like the
Correct,
Grizzlies,
correct, correct. They suspended him 4 games for contact detrimental to the team earlier.
right, and they told him to step away and all that good stuff. This is the NBA giving him the 8 games. This is them saying, "Hey, bro, we don't want to see you in here again. Like, if we see you in here again, especially if it's for the same stuff, it's gonna be worse."
Just a little bit of context, because I don't know if you guys are how if you guys remember the Gilbert Arenas Javaris Crittenton situation, which
Yeah,
is not the same, but also not similar. Not that much different. Both of those guys ended up getting 50-game suspensions, and usually the rule is if you are caught bringing a firearm onto an NBA facility, it's an automatic 50 games, period. There's a little bit of gray area about whether or not John Morant actually brought the weapon to the facility, which is probably why they didn't give him the automatic 50.
And which is why they charges weren't pressed, because they couldn't prove that he brought the gun onto team property and stuff.
Correct.
Like, also to all the idiots talking about some, oh, that's his constitutional right. You do realize when you represent a corporation, you ain't got no rights. You abide by,
when you're inside of building, they have all. You can't just bring your gun everywhere you want.
You can't. That's like me working. Like, I work at a school. That's like if I had a gun, I don't. But that's like me bringing if I had a gun to my job, to a high school, like to a school where there's no weapons allowed on the premises. Like, that's like how they not understand that is beyond me. The minute he got drafted, the minute Adam Silver said with the second pick and whatever year he got drafted, the Memphis Grizzlies select Ja Morant, it no longer became about him. He, from the minute he put that hat on, represented two things: the Memphis Grizzlies and the National Basketball Association. The minute you do that, you abide by their rules. So all the people that's out there saying, "Oh, come on, man, it's not that big of a deal." Yes, it is.
It is a big deal. I mean, you represent the league, you represent the team, you represent your fan base, and as a professional and as an athlete, you have to represent yourself better than this.
Yourself.
Like, there are some real crazy stories about, like, that Foot Locker story, like where you like that story is rough. It's hard. You know.
Then you got the 17-year-old, like him punching out a 17-year-old kid. This is like, dude, it's a faucet. Like they compared it to a faucet, like a drip. Like, it's drip, another hit, drip, another hit. Like, it's when it rains, it pours. So like, yeah, like bro, like you cannot be like. The issue is not him being in the strip club, bro. Live your life. You know how many athletes are probably...
It's a little bushly of the strip club to even release that photo. Like that you're supposed to keep people's identities kind of safe,
confidential,
at those kind of confidential at those kind of establishments.
And I understand, for our, like, the Prime's legal safety. You said allegedly. The issue that you have with that is it's him on video. Like, it's IG Live. Like, there is no alleged about it. Like, there's no saying, like, oh, that's him. Like that's Photoshop. That's a deep fake. Somebody, did something, and like, no, that's him. That's him. And there's no denying it. Like, he can't deny it. That's him. What's going on? Like, I need a couple things to happen. Like, one, I think his circle has to get smaller. His circle has to get smaller. I'm not finna sit here and tell his father how to be a father, especially when I don't have kids, but it's looking like you have to be his father instead of his friend, because that's the vibe y'all give off. All right, you give off like that's my boy versus that's my son. And I need him to talk to the Gilbert Arenases, the Allen Iversons, the dudes who've had that kind of trouble with the league, and be like Gilbert Arenas will tell you right now, that gun issue, that was the beginning of the year.
Oh, for sure. I mean, Gilbert, his career basically went into the toilet because of that. I mean, you got all the guys that were involved in Malice in the Palace. I mean, some of those guys, their careers recovered. And that I guess the Malice in the Palace is sort of a decent example, because that season went in the toilet for the Indiana Pacers team. They had the best record in the NBA at the time. And Memphis right now is the 2 seed in the Western Conference, even with all this stuff going on. Do you want to have a season where you go into the toilet because of off the field stuff?
Because of you?
Yeah,
because of
really,
you.
because of John Morant. For us to be 100% serious here.
But I'm not like the Dylan Brooks running his mouth. That's a conversation for another day. Desmond Bain running his mouth. That's a conversation for another day.
Dylan Brooks is the dirtiest player in the NBA.
Like that's a conversation for another day. Like Dylan Brooks talking out like he blowing kisses to the Mavs fan base. Like, bro, their two best players aren't playing. Like, good for you. You hit a three and you blew a kiss to the Mavs fans. Woo, you really did something. But Ja Morant, like, yo, the one thing I will give, like, we really shouldn't even give him credit for this because that's just accounting. Like, counting goes a long way. And he's like, yeah, I messed up. I need help. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo, woo. Good for you. But at the same time, this wouldn't be happening if you didn't put yourself in that situation to begin. First off, you at a strip club. Why do you need a gun? Why do you need a gun at a
Well,
strip club?
I actually think a lot of professional athletes, because you remember how what's Plaxico Burress? Remember how he got injured? He was at the club and his gun went off in his pocket. I think they just bring it
Okay,
for their own security.
but that's a nightclub. That's a nightclub. He's at a strip club.
I'm telling you right now. I work at a television news station. We have shootings outside of our strip clubs all the time. We cover that kind of stuff like once a month, dude. Like every month we have a shooting at a strip
check
club.
it out. No, check it out. Check it out. He's like outside. I understand. Outside, I understand. Inside, he's inside the club. He's in a controlled setting. You want to know why? It's a VIP room. You can control who comes in and who goes out of this VIP room. From the looks of it, it was just you and a bunch of strippers. You don't need a gun.
Yeah, I think that goes down to. I also think that goes down to maturity. Like he's still a pretty young guy. I mean, he's got 22 years old.
22.
I mean, how many people are young guys have this kind of money coming in? Like, you know, this.
Yeah. That's how not. But he just add his name.
And especially for a lot of these kids, you know, they come from, you know, rough backgrounds where you don't have anything. You know, to start making NBA money, I mean, sometimes it goes to you.
And this, the one thing I will say to that is, like the whole security, like the safety issue that you brought up. You'll never see a dude like Floyd Mayweather with a gun, right? You see when you see Floyd Mayweather walking around, how many people do you see around him?
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
You see a lot of people walking around Floyd Mayweather. Why? Because Floyd, like, I'm not finna get myself in no issue. Like that's what they're for. So this, if you really that concerned about your safety, now that you got hell, even on your rookie deal, bro, like it ain't nothing for you to go out, hire a private security force, 3, 4, maybe 5 dudes, and be like, hey, y'all got one job only. Look out for me and mine. That's it. You will never see Floyd Mayweather carry a gun. And I'm not saying like. Go ahead.
I just saying we hope here at the Prime that, you know, because John Morant is a fantastic basketball player. You hope that this kind of stuff he can get past it, and just move on with his career. Because there have been stories of it not going for sure the other way.
So. Yeah, and so I guess my issue is more so the people that's defending his actions. Like, oh, he should be allowed. Like, no, you should. Like, you can't bring a gun to your job. Why would he be allowed to bring one to his?
Yeah.
All right. Like,
we will continue to follow this John Morant story. Just for right now, yeah, he's sure been spending 8 games by the NBA. He's in treatment. We just hope that, you know, he ends up getting this correct, and, you know, he ends up finishing the season, and Memphis does whatever they're capable of this season. That brings us to the final push question: how will things end in both conferences? Look at the standings on each conference side by side. I only listen to the teams that I think are relevant. I didn't put the Hornets on here. I didn't put, you know, the Pistons. I also didn't put the Houston Rockets and the San Antonio Spurs. But I think there's an interesting discrepancy here with, like, how much better, how much closer, tight knit the West is, as opposed to the East. Like the Magic and the Bucks are only like a couple games better than the Nuggets. They're 22 games back of Milwaukee. Portland is only 15 of the Nuggets.
Yeah, this is
But how do you think these things end? Like, do you think these standings that we're looking at right now will be the way that this season ends, or will you think there'll be some movement?
real quick. This is giving me. Remember that one stretch, like that one stretch. It was like a 5-year period where like the East was super top heavy,
Yeah,
and the West was like 5 games separated, like 1 through 6 in the West and stuff like that.
yeah.
Like you, okay, thank you. I'm glad that somebody else is on there because you got the Bucks. Like the Bucks are the new version of the Cavs. Like those LeBron Cavs where it's just like we're gonna win 50, 60 games, and then whoever's the 2 seed is the 2 seed, and so on and so forth, and then the next closest. Like, come on, like 10 games.
That's because Boston's been like
free falling a little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I mean they've really struggled. Like they're 5-5 in their last 10 games, but I mean,
like it's just like but look, there's a lot of people that's like 5-5 in their last 10, like the Celtics.
A ton. I mean, you're talking
it's
just in the West, just in the East. You got Brooklyn, you got Miami, you got the Hawks, you got Toronto, and you got the Bulls just in the East.
5-5 over their last 10, but like that is insane. But I think
if you want to talk about the West, Denver, the Phoenix Suns, we'll talk about here in Something Nothing Everything here in a minute. Los Angeles Clippers, the Timberwolves, all 5-5 in the last 10 games.
But to answer the back end of that question, do I think some movement happens? Yes. Part of me doesn't want it to. Part of me doesn't want it to, because I need that 4-5 matchup in the West. I need that. Like if the playoffs was to start right now, we would get Suns, Warriors in a 7-game series. I need that.
I need that Chris Paul, Steph Curry going back.
Yeah, I need that Kings, Kings, Clippers. I need that. That would be very entertaining because I'm pretty sure in that situation, hey, Kawhi, Paul George, whatever minutes restrictions y'all had, goodbye. Y'all are y'all straight hooping. And again, it's not often that I'm wrong on here, but I am man enough to admit that when I'm wrong. Earlier this season, me and David had a conversation about who would have a better record between the Kings and the Lakers. And yeah, David picked the Kings, and yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to take the W on that one. I don't take that many W's, so I'll take them where I can.
Yeah. Take that W. Yeah, take that W, please. And I will gladly. I am glad to be wrong on that one. Like, I really am, because it's about damn time, bro. This is their first 40-win season.
I mean, there are still like 20 games left in the NBA season, so I mean the Kings could.
It's less than that. It's like 13 games left, bro. If they collapse, if they lose like 13 straight,
69 games. So yeah, there's 13 games left. Milwaukee only have 13 games left of the season.
Like, come on, bro. Like, yeah.
If the Kings fall apart in the last 13 games, they don't deserve to make the playoffs.
They don't deserve it. Like the Nuggets done lost 4 straight. Like,
I mean, we were having Boston. They lost 3 straight at one point. I thought it was actually more than 3 straight, but it was only 3. The Atlanta Hawks have been kind of super mediocre ever since they changed head coaches. Like you thought, Quinn Snyder was going to come in and make a drastic difference. They've kind of been the same team they were with David Millen.
And I guess he kind of gets a pass because it's like, how often do you see mid-season hires?
Never. We talked about this in the last show. Never. We never see stuff like this.
You ride with the interim till the season's over, and then you make your hire. Like, no, they just went out and said, hey, Nate, you're out, Quinn, you're in, and we'll go from there. That 4-5 matchup in the East between the Cavs and the Knicks, that would be entertaining.
Especially since, the Knicks kind of fumbled the bag when it comes to trading for Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, but the way they're playing right now, bro.
Yeah.
Would I be surprised if they was to beat Cleveland in the 7-game series and move on to the second round? Absolutely not.
I think the Cleveland Cavaliers' lack of a move at the trade deadline is really going to bite them. Like the fact that they didn't bring anybody in the buyout market either. Like I have a coworker who's a big Cleveland Cavaliers fan. I was talking to him a couple days ago. Actually, I'm like,
Excuse me.
we talked about this even during the NBA trade deadline. Like they should have gotten somebody like a Gordon Hayward, or they should have been in the market for a Terrence Ross when he hit buyout market.
Yeah.
Um, they needed somebody who could really fill up the stat sheet because they have Sedby Osman, who's a decent basketball player, but he's wildly inconsistent on offense. Isaac
Mhm.
Okoro is broken. His jump shot is broken. Let's just make it call it what it is. It's broken. And then they have um, Karis LeVert, who is probably the most inconsistent player in the NBA. He can go for 40 one night, and then he has games upon games where he scores under single digits.
Yeah, and I remember when they first made that move to get him, I was like, "Oh, it's on,
Yeah, I was super excited about that
it's
move too.
on." And
And I don't really know how much that cancer diagnosis took from his game, or what happened,
yeah, that was
happened
rough.
since. Yeah,
That was
so
rough. That was
I mean
rough.
that could be a contributing factor of why his game is so inconsistent now. I also didn't expect Brooklyn to be still holding on to this playoff spot, this number 6 seed. They just been, I guess I don't know how they're still in. Like
Well,
kudos to Jock Bond for real.
kudos to Jock Vaughn. It was like you said, like Mikal Bridges, just he he ain't what you call it. He can literally score now. Like when he was in Phoenix, it was all right. You can score, but you're mainly going to be used for defensive purposes. Like I want you guarding the opposing team's best player or best first option, however you want to describe that. Now with in Brooklyn, it's them taking the reins off of him and being like, "Go play, be free," that
I
kind
mean,
of thing.
he's got that house money mentality right now because he was like, hey, if you're Mikal Bridges, I mean, I'm just gonna shoot, and we don't really care what happens right now. Since he's joined the Brooklyn Nets, his scoring is up 9 points a game.
And I know everybody's waiting on.
He's shooting it at 46% from the 3 point line. He's shooting it better at field goal percentage too, like up by 4 points.
Yeah,
Like his numbers are across the board outside of free throw percentage are up, but he's shooting more free throws, so that's just kind of the way percentages work. But
and when you
26
look at
points per game since he joined Brooklyn.
the top two teams, I think like we can all agree the conversation starts and ends with the Bucks Celtics. That's who a lot of people are predicting it to come down to anyway. In the Eastern Conference Finals, they're thinking it's going to be Milwaukee, Boston again, and they say whoever has home court is going to win that one. And if you're Philly, you really shouldn't feel slighted by that because your history doesn't go in your favor.
I mean, it's a team that hasn't made it to the Eastern Conference Finals as they've been currently assembled, and you have a
And you have
James Harden who does disappearing acts in the playoffs, and you have Tobias Harris who is wildly overpaid. Let's just call it what it is.
and disappears in the playoffs, and you have a Joel Embiid who has
Who gets
disappeared in the playoffs, and
who also gets has a history of injuries.
a Doc Rivers whose situational basketball in playoff moments hasn't been the best for a guy that's going to be a Hall of Fame coach and has won a championship. Um, so yeah, that's why Philly isn't. That's why Philly's being glossed over like that.
100%.
They don't have. They don't
It's
like.
their history. I mean, the other two
It's their
teams, the
history.
Bucks and the Celtics, have been there, done that. They both have. The Bucks have won a championship. The Celtics went to a title. Um, the Cavaliers are also a team that has had some question marks with some of their younger guys, and not to mention Jared Allen is hurt now. We're not
Right,
really sure when he's going to return.
and Donovan Mitchell. I'm not saying Donovan Mitchell has come up short, but hey, like his playoff history ain't the best either.
Yeah, but he's put up big numbers in those playoff series that they've lost, but he has had put up pretty solid numbers during those series. Um, yeah, but we'll see what happens with the play-in. I think the top eight teams,
Excuse me.
I actually think the Raptors will end up getting the 8th seed when it's all said and done. I think they'll win the play-in tournament. They'll end up being the 8th seed. The Heat will be 7. I don't expect the Bulls, Pacers, or Magic to creep into the play-in. I just don't.
I don't either. I That's just being real. That's That's just what it is.
I mean, the Pacers are dealing with injuries now, and I think if I was them, I would shut down a bunch of their guys like Tyrese Halliburton and Miles Turner. I think you play for next season. You've had a good season. You've seen what Matherin's hurt now. You would shut him down probably too.
Right. It's clear that Miles Turner is not going anywhere.
Nope, he's just signed a contract extension.
He's not
even eligible. He's not even eligible to trade it until.
But it's like as of right now, because we've seen crazier things happen. And on the West, the Lakers, they got an easy stretch coming up. They've crept back in this thing. I don't know how they're gonna handle AD not playing back to backs because they have a game tonight and he's not playing.
Yeah, they have a game, but so their next couple of games. So they play the Houston Rockets tonight. I think they can beat the Rockets without Anthony Davis. Dallas, Orlando, Phoenix, probably without Kevin Durant. I have no idea when LeBron is supposed to come back. I imagine it'll be at some point, but I mean, they're playing Chicago. This is actually a fairly favorable.
Yeah, that's what. So he's out of the other night when they played New Orleans, he's out of the walking boot. So I guess that's a good sign.
Yeah.
But
that's just usually when someone's not in a walking boot anymore. You're usually pretty happy about that.
Well, it could just be a situation where it's like we don't see it. Like maybe he's out of the boot, but he has like a soft cast or a brace on, and something like that.
I would hope it's if he's down to the point where he's just bracing it or wrapping it. I would hope he'd give it a go.
That would make sense, right? Like that's.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't think you can wait until the playoffs to return. I think you got to eventually get back on the floor before the playoffs. And who goes with the New Orleans, another team? I mean, I don't expect Zion to play again this season. And their season has kind of completely fallen apart.
Bro, they
were a month, 2 months, 3 months ago, maybe we're talking about 3 months ago out now. They were the number one seed in the Western Conference, and they're not going to make the playoffs. Like I don't remember a time where a team was the one seed in the playoffs at any point during a season. Like they were the one seed. Like already not obviously not at the very very beginning, but the season was already established. You're playing games. Like this is like 20 games deep. You're the one seed in a conference, and for you to miss the playoffs entirely, I do not remember a time when that's happened.
So check this out. They did something with Zion, right? So Zion averages like 28 points a game, right? You know how many games a season Zion averages?
Games?
Yeah, games played. You know how many games
it's probably 28.
It's 29.
So he averages a point a game. I mean, that's consistency right there.
So it's like Zion averages 28 points a game. Great. Zion averages 29 games played a season. Not great.
And the guy's getting paid $35 million, something like that.
And you maxed him out. And David, once upon a time, said Zach LaVine would be the worst contract in the NBA.
It doesn't look great right now. So
Zion can't even get on the court.
I will admit I'm wrong. I think the Zion Williamson contract looks real bad right now. I actually think the most of the Western Conference is going to shake out the way I think it's going to shake out. I'm not actually sure if the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to make the playoffs, but they've been playing extremely well. Josh Giddey has 2 triple doubles in the last week.
I was looking at that.
Josh Giddey's. I love Josh Giddey's game, man.
So the play-in is 7, 8, 9, 10, right?
Yeah.
So what is it? Is it 7 plays 10?
No, so 7. So 7 plays 8. The winner of that game is the winner of that game is the 7 seed, and then 9 and 10 play each other, and the winner of that matchup plays the loser of 7, 8.
And then whoever wins that gets the 8 seed, and your reward for winning that game is the Denver Nuggets.
or Milwaukee. You get Giannis.
Or Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So we kind of touched on the Eastern Conference play-in. So let's just say in the West it is Minnesota, OKC, Dallas, LA. Who wins? Who gets what? Who do you
You
think
know
gets
what's
what?
crazy about that? You know what that's crazy about that scenario? Like if like let's say the Thunder wins, they beat Minnesota. Let's say things shake out exactly the way they're shaking out right now. Let's say the
Okay.
Thunder win that game. That means only one of these three teams are making the playoffs. The Timberwolves, the Dallas Mavericks, and the Lakers. Two of those teams are going to be watching the playoffs from home. You think at the start of the season, the Timberwolves, the Mavericks, and the Lakers were going to be in a scenario where they were going to be potentially watching the playoffs from home? Maybe the Lakers, if depending on what you think. I wasn't high on
Yeah,
the Lakers,
maybe the
but
Lakers, depending
Mavericks
on.
and Timberwolves, you think they thought they would be like, oh, there's this area where we're watching the playoffs from home? No,
Well,
probably not.
especially with a Mavs team that went to the Western Conference Finals, and then the Timberwolves with the moves that they made. You asked me at the start when that trade went down, the Gobert trade. You asked me, will it work? What was my answer? It better work.
Well, I mean, in the Timberwolves' defense, Karl Anthony
I
Towns hasn't played since
Honestly, Towns
November.
hasn't played. I
He hasn't
understand
played
that.
since
And
November.
November, like it's March.
He hasn't
It's
played since
March,
November.
and
And
it's more like
late November. He hasn't played since late November. We're gonna talk about Karl Anthony Towns here in a minute, anyways. But yeah, I think the play-in is interesting. Like I think the Western Conference is a very interesting, top-heavy. Like 10 through 15 are only separated by 5 games. So the Warriors, if they continue to struggle at home or on the road, which they have really struggled on the road, they could. I'm not sure how this is going to shake out in the Western Conference. I think the Warriors, the Clippers, the Suns, Kings, Grizzlies, Nuggets are the 6 best
bro.
teams in this conference.
When you talk about confusing, like the Bulls confuse me. The Bulls confuse most of their fans. Can you imagine being a Warriors fan, being like,
Yeah,
how the
they're
hell
seven
are
and
we
20.
so great?
They're 7-26 on the road. They're
And how the
29
hell
and
are we
7
so
at
great at
home.
home?
It's one
Like
of the
what?
worst splits in the history of the league. Like it really is terrible. Like the fact, like they only have one more road win than the Spurs and the Rockets, and they have the exact same, or basically the same exact road record as Detroit. At 7-27, they're
Bro,
7-26. Detroit has 16 wins on the
like,
season.
bro, defensively at home, they're one of the best teams in the league. They're like top five. Defensively on the road, they're bottom five.
But I also think the way that Steph Curry plays, he kind of feeds off that home crowd. Like once he gets like that. If you watch that game on Saturday, where he basically took over that game against Milwaukee, in the final stages of the fourth quarter, and then for sure in overtime, like he was just living off that crowd. He was just feeding off of it, and just that's how they won the game. And they don't have that same dynamic when they're on the road. Like Steph Curry is good because his crowd. Like the crowd carries the Warriors through a lot of their victories. Like they just do.
I understand that, but shouldn't you get just as much of? Shouldn't you feed off shutting the crowd down just as much as one hyping you up?
I don't know. I mean, I've never been in that scenario. But if I was to take a shot at why I think that there's a shot there, the difference, I think that's got to be it.
Like, can you imagine? Like how many? Like when they were dominant, when they were running teams off the court. Do you know how many? Like how much they thrived off of like seeing the crowd go?
But I almost feel like they've become like so they've shifted. Like at that point, they were the villains of the league. Like when they brought Kevin Durant in, they kind of became the villains of the NBA. But now I feel like there's been like a 180 turn. Like they've become like the faces of the NBA. Like it was before they were for sure like in wrestling talk, they were a heel before. Like they were like head of the table Roman Reigns, and now they're like.
Well, I think the heel thing started before KD got there. Like I think it started the season before that. Like when
all the comparisons to the Bulls and like you go 60, 71 and 72 and whatever 9 or
73 and 9
and then you don't win the ship and then you bring in Kevin Durant. They became like Darth Vader to Anakin Skywalker. They just did. But we'll continue to follow this as the season starts to wind down. Let's talk about something, nothing, everything. I only got a couple things for you here today. Let's talk first Kevin Durant. He was supposed to make his supposed to make his home debut almost exactly a week ago, I think, and he gets injured during the warm-ups and does not play in the game. Something, nothing, everything.
It's something. I mean, like it's something for this season because you're running the risk of not having Kevin Durant for the playoffs, at least for the first round, depending on how things go. And that 4-5 matchup, you're saving. Wait, would they be the 4 seed? They're the 4 seed.
Yeah.
Like your saving grace is you would have home court because we just talked about the Warriors on the road. They're terrible. So if you get Golden State in a seventh game at home, you should probably win that. Even if Kevin Durant's not there, when you get to that second round, that's when it starts to be concerning.
I mean, this is
because you don't have him and Devin Booker. Hey, you.
I mean, this is kind of the risk you ran, like when you.
Like I understand, like you a bad boy and all, but
who was injured when you traded for him, and then for him to get immediately injured, it's just got to sting. Like it's got to this is something for me too.
Yeah, that hurts. And Devin Booker, you a bad boy, but you kind of talking a little bit bolder and louder because you know for a fact that when you look back, that nuclear weapon that is Kevin Durant can come to your rescue. Okay, before KD got there, like maybe you would, like maybe you was, like maybe you were, but come on, bro, like you only doing that because KD there.
So Luka Doncic's MRI came clean on that thigh injury. What do we think about that? MRI clean for Luka Doncic on the thigh injury.
Everything.
Something, nothing, everything.
Everything.
Yeah, no argument.
I watched that game against the Pelicans. I watched that game against the Pelicans, and you could tell, like he was not 100%. And yeah, it's everything. Like,
no argument there.
It's everything.
For sure, everything as well. And then to another injury front, Karl-Anthony Towns return expected this week or next week. Something, nothing, everything.
Depending on who you ask, is everything. Me personally, you already know the direction I would go if I was Minnesota. I'm devoting all my time and my energy towards Anthony Edwards. I think Anthony Edwards is better than Karl-Anthony Towns. I think Anthony Edwards is that team's best player. So it's everything depending on who you. It's everything depending on who you talk to. I understand.
I think it's something, but everything I'm not so sure about that because
it's everything because like that dynamic, that like their dynamic, like that 1-2 punch between him and Edwards, that's crucial. You're not asking Rudy Gobert to be hey bro, I need 20 and 10 out you. That dude.
But I think the thing is, like, Minnesota's a fringe playoff team right now. But when they had those two guys on the floor together, they weren't like good, like on the floor together. Like that was not a system that worked. And they're gonna try to integrate those two guys together with like 10 games left in the season. I think it might even be a mistake to bring Karl-Anthony Towns. If I'm Minnesota, I don't think we're gonna compete this season. I might shut him down. I would
shut him down. I would 100% shut. I would stand pat with what I got right now. I would shut Cat that AI because I want you 100% healthy, and I would rather do that next year than.
I'm 100% agreeing with you on that.
Forcing the issue with 10 games up. No. Go ahead.
Two more. Last week, all women call a basketball game for the NBA. Doris Burke was on the call. All women broadcast. That includes everyone involved, like the producer, director, tech operation, all of the spots. And when it comes to production, all women for International Women's Month. So shout out to all the women that watch the show, including my mother and my sister and my Aunt Judy, who always watches every show and gives every show a like, and we appreciate that from my Aunt Judy.
Thanks, Aunt Judy. Yeah, it's everything. it's like we're still breaking down barriers for women in sports. Of course, you still got the trolls out there, the idiots. That's the nice word I'll call them, the idiots This it's everything because the men out there that have daughters, you want your daughter to think that you can do anything. And me personally, I think ESPN should do that stuff more often. Like when
I
you
I, I agree. I mean, if you're gonna do it like internet, like do it every day,
do it,
for every day of March. Do the whole month.
or just like even when it's not International Women's Month, like have them call a playoff game, have them call an opening
Well,
night game, like this.
Dorisburg does call some playoff games. So
And I'm not talking like obviously Doris, like she the goat outside the Doris, but I'm talking like the whole you did like women, like the whole team is women. Like
yeah,
we see Doris Burke, but she's most of the time paired with Orion Rucco or whoever is her
I can't
running
remember
mate.
who. Hold on.
I can't remember who it is. Is it Ryan Rucco? I think it is Ryan Rucco. But yeah, like that should happen more often because it sends a message like, hey, you can do this.
Yep.
I want you to do this.
So Beth Mowens was called the game with Doris Burke. More than 70 women took part in making the game possible on Wednesday. So yeah, exactly a week ago actually. 70 women. So they filled the roles of analysts, commentators, producers, directors, graphic designers, statistician, and social media operators.
And they
So,
did the and they did the and there was a panel of women that did the pregame show in for countdown.
yep.
So yeah, like you can, yeah, shout out to them. Like you can do
Yeah,
this.
love it, love it.
Should happen
Final
more.
one, final one, TJ. There are six. So obviously we're coming up to National College Basketball March Madness, right?
Hmm.
That starts tomorrow, and the NBA wanted to. The NBA has a lot of players that played in college, right? Most of them played in someone in college.
Hmm.
Can you name? So six schools feature at least 10 current NBA players. Can you name all six?
One more six. Wait, six
So
schools
there are
have
six.
10.
There are six colleges that have at least 10 current NBA players. Can you name those six schools?
Duke,
Okay, that's one.
Kansas,
No. Yes, Kansas is one. All right, so we got two,
Kentucky.
three.
Uh, trying to think. No, it's not Arizona. I know they're not on there.
Are you sure?
Is Arizona on there?
Arizona is number four.
Damn. Texas.
No.
Oh, okay. You sure Texas not on it? That's crazy.
100%. I got the numbers right here, man.
That's crazy. That's surprising.
I mean, I can't even think of any players actually. How many Texas players are there in the NBA? I mean, outside of Ty Jones, who plays for the Hornets, I think.
Kevin Durant.
All right, there's two.
I'm pretty sure there's more, but that's a tough.
That's the only two I can think of.
So I'm at Duke, North Carolina, Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, Arizona,
These other two are tough. I don't know if you're gonna get them. Like they're pretty tough.
Virginia.
No.
Hmm. So
Well, I'll give you a hint. Um, the two bowls go to both of these schools.
two Bulls go to both. USC.
That's one.
Oh, you say go UCLA.
UCLA is the other. No, that's 12. So running out the numbers. So Kentucky has 26 guys in the NBA. Duke has 23. UCLA has 12. USC has 11. Arizona's got 10, and Kansas has 10. So yeah, that's as we get into March Madness. Shout out to all of them. TJ, are you doing a bracket this year?
I do about 4 brackets every year. I do the tournament. I do the ESPN. I just do like the ESPN tournament challenge. I do 3. I usually do it where like 3 I pick myself, and then I just have one BS one where it's just Like it's just completely randomized. And in that one, like the random one, Illinois plays Vermont in the national championship, and
What? It's not gonna happen.
it's
So,
like yeah, it's like a 15 seeds going all the way to the big dance. I didn't even like.
uh, the reason I wanted to do this show kind of early, first of all, I really want to try those new Buffalo Wild Wings flavors, those that Buffalo Ranch flavor and that honey garlic. Man, I just tell you, that sounds fire. And then when I get home from getting my wings, I'm going to set up plates on the floor in my apartment. I'm going to have one represent the higher seed and one represent the lower seed. I'm going to put treats for my cat on on each plate, and I'm going to let her pick who is going to win each game, and then I'm going
What
to
if
fill out
she
a bracket.
what if she picks all lower seeds?
Yeah, now that's how I'll roll with it. That'll be Pace's bracket, and she will have her own bracket, and it'll be fun. And so yeah,
Okay.
I got a long night of just doing that to do.
Yeah. Get started.
But yeah, tomorrow we are coming back here to cover some NFL stuff because the NFL life has been wild over the last week or so. We're going to be talking about the NFL draft. We're going to talk about that Chicago Bears trade because I've been dying to talk about it here on the crossover here at Prime Sports World. We're also going to do our first full mock draft as we now have some clarity about how things have shaken out in free agency, and then next week we'll do a whole free agency show, winners and losers. There are some for sure notable winners, including the Chicago Bears. Even though not crazy about losing David Montgomery, but we'll see how things shake out.
Jamal Williams just signed with the Saints. That happened while we were doing this.
That's interesting. I mean, I'm interested to see how much money he signed for. But yeah, I've been
3
David
year,
Huffman. Go ahead. What is it?
it's a 3 year deal, but I don't see any money as to
Okay.
how much.
We'll find out. I've been David Huffman. Right there's my co-host, Mr. TJ Hopkins. And TJ, what do we do here at the Prime, my friend?
We bring the heat.
Yes, sir. And it is nice out here in Fort Wayne, even though it's supposed to get cold by Friday. But we'll take it. We'll take what we can get for right now, man. You have a good night, man. I will talk to you tomorrow, buddy.
All right, bro. I'll hit you up.
Peace, brother.